And joining us today in our book talk segment, great to welcome, man has written an interesting book about a topic I think most people like. It's called Will It Waffle? Yes, It Will. 53 Irresistible and Unexpected Recipes to Make in a Waffle Iron. We're joined today by Daniel Shumski, who has a website called thewaffleizer.com. We'll find out about that as well. And Daniel, thanks for being with us today. How are you?
It's good to be here. I'm doing really well. Thanks.
I don't think there's many people in the world that do not like waffles, so that's a good topic to write about.
Yeah, it's a good starting point. I mean, the book came about because I love waffles too, but I wanted to make sure that the waffle iron was capable of more than just the standard waffles that we know about.
I remember as a kid, the first time I had waffles, my grandmother had the old-fashioned waffle iron that you put on the stove. The stove actually heated it up, so maybe that's
yeah, right, exactly.
First taste of a waffle of a certain age, I think. What was that kind of your favorite too growing up, or how did you get into waffles?
I've always liked waffles, and the book came about because I had sort of a sleepless night, and I knew I liked waffles, and I knew I liked the waffle iron. But on the other hand, I was only using the waffle iron, let's say, once a week at the most, and so I didn't like the idea that I had this kitchen appliance sitting around that wasn't being used that much. And so what I decided to do was see whether I could use the waffle iron for things, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, basically. So for things that were not your conventional waffles.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting part of the book. Obviously, breakfast food, as most people think of it. Although I guess the last few years I've heard of chicken and waffles. That's kind of taken off as a as a popular food, which kind of combines two things you wouldn't normally expect. But you have like pizza, burgers, fish, even steak you can make in a waffle iron, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think one of the recipes that surprises people the most is the filet mignon that I made in the waffle iron.
Right.
But when you think about it, I know it's a little strange to hear at first, but you think about it, and what you've got is this kitchen tool that has high heat on both sides. So you put a steak in there, and it sears the outside and gives it this nice crust, and then you still get a nice bit of pink in the middle.
Yeah, you wonder what it is. I mean, really, a waffle is the same pretty much batter as pancakes, but it tastes better for some reason because it's a waffle. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I think the geometry of the waffle and those nooks and crannies really, you eat first with your eyes, and it does kind of make a difference.
Talk a little bit about some of the recipes. You mentioned the filet mignon. Did you kind of get into a test kitchen yourself and try all these different things? Ravioli's another one. I've never heard of that before being waffled.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of the book was testing the recipes, and I'm lucky that I have a lot of friends who are chefs, and I could kind of pick their brains for things that they thought would work in the waffle iron beyond just waffles. And so that's one of the ways that I came up with. Let's take the waffled s'mores, for example, where you've got graham cracker dough that you cook in the waffle iron, and then you put marshmallows and chocolate in between it, and that just gets nice and melty and gooey, and you end up with the waffled s'mores.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, you can combine so many different things inside the waffle with different type of sandwiches. I think you have the one here with the ham sandwich too. I mean, that's kind of a great combination, and it's not like we said just breakfast food either. I mean, a lot of dinner recipes in here as well that I guess a lot of people just never thought of before until you did it. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once you have this waffle iron and you realize that it's another tool, you start to view things a little bit differently. So, for example, take quesadillas, which are not something you would normally think of making in the waffle iron. But on the other hand, it's the perfect tool for it because you get the pressing down and you get the heat from both sides, and the cheese melts, and it all comes together in just 2 or 3 minutes at the most.
There's a couple in here which I'm going to try. I think you have chicken parmesan and then the waffled chicken sandwich or chicken breast dinner. Those sound good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another great example of where, you don't think of making a stuffed chicken breast in the waffle iron, but that high heat on both sides makes it come together really quickly, and it works really well.
It's almost like, I don't know if pressure cooker is the right term, but it cooks it in a different way that adds a different kind of flavor, I guess, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It creates a nice crust, and you get the pressing together of things. It's a nice combination.
I guess waffle fries, a lot of people know those from certain fast food restaurants, but potatoes work well, I guess, in a waffle iron, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a recipe for waffle fries in there, and then one of the things I love to do in the waffle iron are hash browns, because you get that crispiness on both sides without having to stir or flip or anything. The waffle iron just takes care of it on its own.
Kind of interesting, too, just reading through the book, you got some history of the waffle iron. I didn't know it went back as far as it did. I think you said it goes back 200 or 300 years, even before that, right? Even ancient times, they may have discovered a type of waffle iron?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you look into medieval history, you can even see sort of the ancestors, if you will, of the modern waffle. And when you look back to the colonial times of America, you find that Thomas Jefferson went to France, and in 1789 he came back from France, and he came back with a waffle iron.
Are the French given credit for inventing the waffle? I mean, is that where they think it started?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that, but I think it was in Europe, and that's how it left the Atlantic to make it to our shores.
And of course, just getting back to its traditional breakfast use of the waffle, you have some interesting recipes of not just a regular plain waffle, but different things you can add into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I made, there are 53 recipes in the book, and the point of the book was to do things that were not typical waffle recipes, but there are, at the end of the book, I wasn't going to write a whole book on using the waffle iron and not sneak in a few recipes for waffles. So there are a couple waffle recipes at the end there.
And you recommend try making from scratch, right? Try not to use the mix if you can.
I'm a big fan of... Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of making it from scratch. One of the recipes in there is for overnight waffles, and the great thing about that is you can start them the night before, and then the morning when you wake up, you can basically throw them together in about 90 seconds.
Well, that's handy. And your website, waffleizer.com, information there as well on different recipes, or what do you write about there?
Absolutely. I mean, if you go to willetwaffle.com, you can find all about the book and about, I post some recipes there, talk about different ways to use your waffle iron, get creative, and I love hearing from people and their ideas and seeing what they've taken from the book and gone and done on their own.
What do you recommend, or any particular waffle iron or waffle appliance you recommend? Obviously, there's different types out there, but any particular one that's better than another?
No, I have found that it's pretty flexible. I tested the recipes in the book to be accommodating, and so they work across a pretty broad range of waffle irons. So I would say, start first with the waffle iron that you already have. Maybe it's pushed back in the cabinet or on top of the fridge or something, but dig it out and give it a whirl. And
they're not too expensive if you have to buy a new one, right? $50, something like that?
Well, that's the thing. They're not too expensive. You can often find them in thrift shops or online, and on auction sites or the online classified ads. It's pretty easy to pick one up used. It's not usually hard to find one.
Well, it's a fun book to kind of go through. 53 recipes in it, called Will It Waffle? Yes, it will. We've been talking with Daniel Shumski today. And Daniel, give out the website once again where people can get a hold of you or the book.
Yeah, absolutely. The website to go to is willetwaffle.com.
Great. Daniel, appreciate you talking for a few minutes, and hopefully we can do it again. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.